From humble beginnings, working as a 14-year-old boy at small shows in Tijuana, Mexico, fighting, scratching, clawing his way up, having to have Conan go to bat for him. Basically, Conan was saying, this guy's really goddamn good. You have to give him a chance. Don't let his size be something that turns you off. He will show you things that you have never seen before. And then he continued to fight, scratch, and claw, and put on great performances in Mexico. And then when Worlds Collide 1994, he exploded onto the U.S. scene, got the attention of Paul Heyman in ECW, went to WCW, became one of the mainstays of the Cruiserweight division, and eventually went to WWE, and even despite some weird booking decisions and the fact that Vince McMahon's like, you're too small, pal, ha ha ha, and injuries, and all the stuff that he went through, the trials, tribulations. He's a true family man, and he is one of the greatest luchadors of modern times, perhaps one of the greatest luchadors of all time, and one of the biggest inspirations for talents going today, high-flying, Booyaka Booyaka 619. Boy, I sound so goddamn white saying that. Anyway, I'm John Renton with my review of WWE on A&E Biography, WWE Legends on Rey Mysterio. I apologize for this review being up a couple days later than normal. There's a reason for that. Well, a few reasons. One, I had to work a whole lot, and two, because of multiple viewers rather requesting that I review the NWA 74 weekend events, I decided to review that. And then I was really busy at work and reviewing Raw yesterday. Yeah, Rey Mysterio is still going. It is hard to fucking believe that Rey Mysterio is still going because his left knee in particular is practically bone on bone. And he talks about how he is able to continue going. And this was some pretty good stuff. A lot that I think most people already knew, but it was cool to see the old footage of like the Mexican shows, the Tijuana shows at the very beginning, hear from his family and his parents, his uncle, hear from Conan. It was really nice to actually hear from Conan. He provided some great insight here. Heyman talked about his time in ECW. Even Bruce Pritchard wasn't like the worst here, but that's because they kept his stuff to a minimum. Unfortunately, Sam fucking Roberts was in it. But it was great to hear from Ray. And Dominic was also there. So, yeah, we start off with Mania 38. Clips, too small to make it. And boy, he proved them wrong. He proved me wrong because I'll admit, even seeing him, well, I saw him on syndicated ECW TV, but when you really got to see him in WCW, like 15 half years old, and you're like, not like, wow, it's like, okay, he's really, really small. He's barely taller than the ropes. But man, the shit he could do, you gotta say, the stuff that Ray could do, I can't encompass just how great it was to see it at that time. People take it for granted now because so many people are doing dives or the Hurricanrana or the 450s, that kind of, doing all these high-flying moves. With Ray, it was believable. Somehow Ray could he got the selling down. It took a bit. He had to add some mass to his body eventually to get to WWE. But the thing is he was still really small. You can't increase someone's height unless you put them on the goddamn torture rack, and I'm not talking about the Lex Luger move. Ray was always diminutive. And he ended up, growing as a performer, as a wrestler, as a human being, and through the ups and downs all around, come on, defense work. But he continued to improve his game. Now, you could argue that maybe Ray has hung around a little bit too long, and that, yes, he's lost a few steps. Father Time is undefeated. But that being said, the fact that he has been able to basically go for, he's had more of a part-time thing since about, I'd say, 2014. He still has been able to carve out one hell of a goddamn career. The tradition of the mask. Clips of, throughout his life and everything. And his parents came from Tijuana in 1974 to San Diego. Mother was pregnant at the time. Had him so they could travel back and forth between Tijuana and San Diego, which I knew they were close. I didn't realize they were within 30 fucking miles of each other because clearly you can tell that geography is not exactly my strong suit. But he wanted to learn how to wrestle, and also they bopped back and forth between Tijuana and San Diego because that way they could have the dual citizenship, and also his father could find work. Rey Mysterio Sr., who was Ray's uncle, I'm shocked he's still alive. I'm also shocked he's only 64 years old because it just seems like he'd been around forever. He debuted in 1975, and his family didn't want him to wrestle, so that's why he wore the mask, and I'm talking about Rey Mysterio Sr., Why Rey Mysterio? Well, January 6th is Three Kings Day in Mexico. And they basically, after bopping back and forth between Tijuana and San Diego, Rey would would go from Tijuana over the border to San Diego for school. He'd work part-time at Godfather's Pizza. I miss Godfather's Pizza. There are some in my state, but they're way too far away. The pizza would basically be ice cold by the time I got back. We do need to make a trip down there at some point. Godfather's Pizza was really good, I remember. Granted, that was back when I was a kid, but nevertheless. He would go to Tijuana for wrestling school, and his uncle was tough on him, and he made it clear that it was not going to be easy. He wanted him to prove his worth. He wasn't like trying to be mean-spirited, but that's the way you toughen people up. And Konnan developed a friendship with Rey pretty much right away, as it were, and they continue to talk. Konnan continues to talk about how him and Rey are still friends to this day. His debut at 14 as the Green Lizard. That was his debut gimmick. Rey is not Konnan. That would be weird. Get to see the 1989 footage, which is it's really cool to see this stuff, even though it's like fan cam stuff or like camcorder stuff. It's just really, really cool to see this. Yeah, there's like maybe 200 fucking people there in a little high school gymnasium or some kind of school, or maybe I don't know, a bull riding goddamn thing. I have no fucking idea what that was. It was just really cool to see that. And then we tell brief stories about El Santo, the man, the silver mask man. I mean, Samson versus the Vampire Women, MST3K episode. It's one of their best. El Santo is revered as one of the best. One of the best ever. He never took the mask off. I think he took the mask off on a talk show like it was a week before he passed away. I think it was a week. It was sometime in 84, 85. I forget the exact year that he passed away. But I remember seeing footage of that, and that was really cool to see. The Santo stuff was really good. I would like to hear more about the Santo stuff because just how over he was, the comic books, how revered he was, how much people loved him. They would stand up and cheer in the movie theater. Because Santo was seen like a god over there. He was, and I mean, still is revered to this day. I don't think a ton of footage of El Santo exists. You could see him pull off some wrestling moves in the movies that he did, which were certainly decent at best, I guess would be the best way to describe them. But anyway, the mask tradition goes back to the Aztecs and Mayans. Rey struggled because of his size. Konnan basically had to stick up for him, not just say, hey, you need to book this guy. He's going to show you some great shit. By the way, fuck Bruce Pritchard and Sam Roberts, though, I do want to say, even though I kind of said that Bruce wasn't all that bad, still fuck him for being a goddamn lying sack of shit. Sam Roberts is an idiot. Just want to say right now. And Konnan kept getting him booked, and then the auditorium debut, I forget. It wasn't Arena Mexico. I don't think that was Arena Mexico. I don't think so. On August 2nd of 1991, his uncle comes in the ring and bestows the name Rey Mysterio Jr. on him. Like, okay, you've proven your worth. Because he was also called the Hummingbird at one point. Colibri? I think is how it said. Which was kind of funny. And so from then on, from August 2nd, 1991, till now, until the end of time, he will be Rey Mysterio Jr. And then he met Angie when Angie was 17, about to go to med school, but she was in high school, and Rey was 15. And if you look at pictures of Rey looked like he was about 11 or 12. I mean, obviously he was old, but he always looks young. I mean, if you see him without the mask, he still looks young. That's just how he looks. I also know that his parents kind of reminded me of cartoon mice, the way they were standing up for their interview. Oh, no, they were sitting down. I'm sorry. It was hard to tell because I think diminutive status runs in that family. Because anybody in that family could run under a closed door. So, Konnan convinced Rey, hey, come for AAA. We're going to set the world on fire and everything. Well, then he was struggling with money. He was really, really struggling with money. And him and Angie they would always stay in contact, and they loved each other. But Rey was struggling. They were sleeping out of the goddamn ring. They didn't really have a lot of money. She had quit med school and was helping him by working and making sure that he had money, and that helped him quite a bit. And they bonded, they loved each other, and they still do. And I mean, it's great to see, even through the struggles that they've had. So there's a guy named Hayashi in Japan who designs Ray's gear. They had developed a friendship for years and years and years. He, back, I think, when he went over there, it was something like 2 masks, like 1 mask for you, and then 1 mask, can you give it to me, for a memory and stuff like that. He also made the gear for Mania 38. More on that in a bit. Angie, basically, after helping Ray and everything, the AAA start-off point was August 2nd, 1992. And there's owner Antonio Pena. I know the name. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't think he is. I mean, he might be. But if he can't learn how to punch, he's going to work with the minis. And the minis were tough. Minis are also about the same height as Ray. But the whole point is Conan basically said, hey, you got to toughen up. Let's do this. Otherwise, you're going to be put with those guys and they'll run you out of the business. And then we smash cut to AAA When Worlds Collide 1994. All eyes were on Ray there. It was very exciting. I believe they ran in L.A. Wasn't the Coliseum. Was it the Olympic Auditorium? I think it was the Olympic. I'm trying to remember. It was either the Olympic or the Cow Palace, but the Cow Palace is San Francisco. So then Heyman falls in love with Ray. Obviously, you could see why Heyman could feel he could get something out of Ray. Ray and Psychosis come over, and they work some ECW shows. I believe Hoovy worked some ECW shows. Conan did. Conan was more of a big star in AAA, but also getting some shots in WCW. And we see footage of Conan, Ray, and Psychosis, the Lucha chants, Lucha, Lucha, Lucha. Not like Kalisto. No, this was actual talent. I kid. Kalisto's talented. He's just not very interesting. So, they jumped off the Rana, or they jumped off the car, into a Hurricanrana. I believe Heyman was quoted saying, fans' car, by the way. If my dad wasn't a lawyer, I could have never survived ECW. I got sued more times than Martha Stewart. Conan goes to WCW, wins the U.S. Championship, I believe, for the One Man Gang. Soon after, they did a disputed finish between One Man Gang and Kensuke Sasaki at Starrcade 1995. And Conan held that till, I think it was Bash at the Beach, 96, where Flair beat him. I believe so. And Ray and Angie marry in 1996, and they've been happy ever since. Dominic was born in 1996, and the wrestling world has been cursed ever since. I kid. Well, actually, wait. No, he wasn't born in 96. He was born a little bit after that. No, maybe he was. He was born at some point. He was born somewhere in the later 90s. Actually, it might have been 98. But nevertheless, Bischoff was talking about how he had to make WCW different than WWE and enter the cruiserweights. And the cruiserweights were a big goddamn deal. They were given a ceiling because of their light heavyweight status and everything, and the fact that they were out there, put on athletic matches. And a lot of people were like, I can't follow that. And nobody could. Even Booker was quoted, I believe, in one of the Monday Night War things, I think, on the cruiserweights. Well, how am I supposed to follow that? And Booker was at his athletic peak, or still rising into his athletic peak at that point. Ray's debut, he thought it was going to be a house show, maybe a TV taping. And then he saw all the cameras, and then he realized it was going to be a pay-per-view against Dean Malenko, who was at his prime at this point. And went out, tear down the house match, great Cruiserweight Championship match. Ray would then battle Psychosis at Bash at the Beach 96, beat Dean Malenko on the following Nitro, and hold the championship for about 3.5 months? 3.5, almost 4 months, I believe. Dean beat him eventually for it. And Hogan talks about seeing Ray. Was Hogan even at that pay-per-view? Because Hogan had a lot less dates by that point. He would show up at Bash at the Beach 96. The most infamous turn of all time. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, you people wouldn't be here. And Hogan was telling us how he felt about you people, and people didn't believe it. So, and how am I going to follow that? That's a good point. It's really hard to follow something when guys are going out there and having, flip-de-doo-dah shit and a bunch of athletic stuff. Terry Taylor chimed in and then abused a woman backstage, allegedly. And then Dominic, July of 96. Okay, man, it's like, write down a whole bunch of notes, you kind of forget some stuff. So, So Dominic is almost 26. And he still has that hair. If you saw Raw recently, you know what I'm fucking talking about. Ray, long darted into a truck by Nash. Nash even told the story. Ray wanted him to put him through the window. He's like, Ray, there's glass in that window. Nash is stout at that point, even with the fact, admittedly, that he had one really good working leg that he has had fixed since then, and that's great for him. He long darted into the trailer. That was some great stuff. They talked about the friendship with Eddie. This is where things really started to hit home. Quick history of the Guerrero family. They skipped over his 96 title win and his match against Jushin Thunder Liger at Starrcade 96, which I really liked. Wasn't one of the best matches of the year, no, but it was really good, especially since Liger came back from a brain tumor being removed at some point earlier in the year. I'm going to say again, and I'll probably repeat it when I get to the point, no wrestler's death hit me harder than Eddie's. I fucking cried for days. If I still had contact with one of my exes, or my girlfriend at the time, even though we parted as friends, she would have vouched for that. It was tough. It was tough on a lot of it. It was tough on people in the industry. It was obviously tough on the family, the respective families, and it was tough on the fans. Everybody loved Eddie. They knew his demons were around. And yeah, he died clean and sober, but his demons had overtaken, but still, nevertheless. Halloween Havoc 1997, Ray in the Phantom gear versus Eddie, one of the best matches in WCW history, one of the best matches of the 90s. Everything about that just fucking fit. Everything clicked. There are very few matches where everything clicks. Even stuff that looks like it was a bit, not of a botch, but just like a mess up, or like something didn't quite go right, it still clicked because it was fucking great. And that match, I could watch that match a bunch of times. That match is in my top 20 favorite ever. Bischoff wanted to have Ray lose the mask, and Ray was holding his ground, and then a couple hours before, or maybe like a match or two before, I think Ray said it got changed. Eddie said, in old footage, obviously, he had no problem doing the honors for Ray. He always wanted to take care of Ray. Because Konnan wasn't in WCW as much until a little bit later in the 90s. And Eddie kind of took on the Big Brother deal. Then we skipped to 1999, which, considering that he suffered a knee injury, I believe, in the beginning of 98, and Chris Jericho took him out. And then he came back like in August of 98, and then they did the LWO stuff. We skipped to 99, Super Brawl 9, tag match, he loses. Instead of shaving Liz's hair, they emphasized from where. Haha, I kid. Fuck Lex Luger, by the way, for what happened with Liz. And I stand by everything I said in my Lex Luger biography, even though they were both adults. You can watch that and you can be pissed off if you want. Ray loses the mask, and then he looks like a 14-year-old kid. And that's not Ray's fault, it's genetics, but the mask gave him identity. Yes, he beat Nash. The next night, he was the giant killer, and that lasted a little bit. It didn't last very long. It really didn't. He beat Nash, he beat Bam Bam. He was competitive with a few others, but by that point, WCW was starting to go down. They skipped over the Filthy Animals. Bischoff even admitted that he probably wouldn't have had the mask removed, even though it seemed like a good idea at the time. Or maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. He kind of waffled back and forth during his own interview clip. So, when they skipped over the Filthy Animals, that was probably smart, because Konnan just kind of did the same old shit. Him and Kidman were a good team, though. Ray and Kidman, that is. WCW purchased by WWE. He wasn't sure if he was going to go to WWE. Even though he had some guaranteed money, it wasn't going to last way too long, and he didn't end up going. And Vince had an idea for a Mighty Mouse thing. That's like the same thing he wanted to give to Neville, because nobody can look, at somebody that's of a diminutive status and not look at a Mighty Mouse cartoon. Here he comes to save the day. Ray was not in the best place and was angry towards a lot of people, like his wife Angie, who was pregnant with Aaliyah at the time. And he was a dick, self-admitted dick. He even said off camera, "No, Angie, be honest. Tell them I was a dick." Because he admitted it. I mean, and he's open about it. That doesn't excuse it, but he is human at the end of the day, and he has made amends for that, and she has forgiven him. the vignettes, he's coming. I remember the vignettes, like, seeing that, and I go, in 21 and a half. I remember seeing that, like, oh, the mask. Oh, the mask is coming back. Okay, good. They decided to mask Ray back up. And now we see and hear from Dominic because he's getting more involved in this. Ray was shocked that WWE brought him in with the mask. Heyman basically said we would be stupid not to include the mask because not just marketing, but just the fact it's his identity. And debut, jumping off the cage, jumping on the Un-Americans. That was a short-lived stable. Just let Ray be Ray, I believe is what Edge said. Unfortunately, Michael Cole chimes in. And I know some people like Michael Cole. That's fine. I don't. And he was a tag champ with Edge briefly. Did suffer a knee injury. He was a tag champ with Eddie. That was in, was it 04? Late 04, early 05? Was it 05? It was sometime in 05 at the latest because they went into Mania tag champ versus tag champ to open the show. And Cruiserweight, they skipped over the Cruiserweight title run rather, in 2003. Eddie and Ray were closer than most brothers. Eddie overcame his Look, I mean, I don't make any bones about it. I can be harsh as a wrestling fan towards people. You overcome your demons, it's difficult. I've had family members that have, some that haven't. Eddie did. Eddie's body also said, you did so much, we can't take it. And that's just some stuff that, that's something I really don't like to reflect on. I'm glad they touched on it. And they did show how Eddie and Ray were closer than most brothers. And then they do the custody of Dominic thing, which if it hadn't been for Ray and Eddie being involved, there's no fucking way they would have been able to make this work. Eddie on the playground, talking to Dominic at his daycare. Don't make me take their papa. I'm your papi. It's like, Ray's not your papi. I'm your papi. God, Eddie made that work. And then they go to the ladder match and the custody of Dominic. And they skip over my favorite part where Eddie is struggling with the case. And then finally Ray knocks him off and he's banging him at, where the fuck was Vicky? Can we bring Eddie back and just put Vicky in his place? So Vicky would be in hell for being a stupid twat. But anyway, November 13, 2005. The day Eddie died. And everybody was heartbroken. I remember, and I mean, back then, it feels weird to say back then because the internet was popping up a lot more and everything, but still, you read about it on wrestling forums, read about it on news sites, and I'm like, no, that's it, everybody's doing it, no. I think everybody was just saying that. We were just trying, like, if we said no enough times, it wouldn't be the case. They showed footage of the funeral, which surprised me. Footage of the tribute to Raw, that didn't surprise me. But footage of Eddie's funeral, which I had never seen before. Or maybe I haven't, I just blocked it out of my mind. But that was really tough. And then they kind of cut Ray off at the knees. Winning the Rumble for Eddie, that wasn't the issue. It's just the way they booked him. It was having an adverse effect because it felt like instead of having Ray stand on his own, they were like, okay, they couldn't be Eddie winning the title again, so it's going to be Ray in the name of Eddie. It's like the Kerry Von Erich thing in the name of David. Except you could believe Ray a little bit more because Ray had both feet on the ground. So he entered at number 2 at the Rumble, won in Mania 22 in a match that was 9.5 minutes. 9.5 fucking minutes because they had to do a goddamn pillow fight on that same card, which, no disrespect to the women, did not belong on a Mania card. So then the family talks about they skip over the fact that his world title run was booked like shit. They didn't even acknowledge his WWE title win for 90 fucking minutes before John Cena beat him, a man that had already wrestled, because John Cena is a babyface. And they skipped over his world title run in 2010, I think, for like a month. So, family talks about the bumps, the travel, and all the pain. Ray said he had like 10 to 12 surgeries on his knee, on his left knee in particular. And she could tell when he would land wrong or when he was hurt. She could just tell that kind of symbiotic relationship. He got into abusing pain pills. I did not realize it was that bad that he went to rehab. I remember that he went away for a bit. I did not realize he went to rehab. I know he got suspended via the wellness policy a couple times, but he then went to a Tijuana hospital, did stem cell research, and that's prolonged his career and done some really, really, good stuff for his life in general. And if stem cell research can fix, I think they need to fund that shit here, because a lot of people would be better, but whatever. That's another story for another day. They talk about the Paraguayo Jr. situation where it wasn't Ray's fault. Ray went to the funeral. He felt terrible. His family even said, this isn't your fault. It's in God's hands. You wipe your hands, wipe your mind clean of this. You didn't do anything. I haven't seen somebody roped into that since David Carradine. I'm sorry. That's how we deal with sad situations, folks. I make bad jokes. And connection with the fans at WrestleMania Access. Somebody said Dominic was their favorite wrestler, favorite superstar. I want that fan arrested and interrogated and put on the stand and asked, why did you lie? I kid. If you like Dominic, that's okay. 2018 Rumble return. So he returns. They skip over All In, which is smart because not only do they not own the footage, but it was Ray. I know it was Kota Ibushi and the Bucks. It was Ray, Phoenix. Was it Laredo Kid? I'm trying to remember. I had not seen All In since it first popped up. But then he starts training Dominic. And then we see Survivor Series 2019 footage. We didn't see my favorite piece of footage involving Dominic, where Ray F5'd. Yeah, I believe he F5'd somebody onto Dominic, or F5 Dominic onto... I'm trying to remember, but it was just hilarious. Beats up Cain Velasquez, beats up Ray, beats up Dominic, just F5s everybody on everybody. It's just fucking hilarious. It was like one of my favorite 90 seconds to 2 minutes of wrestling footage in the last 10 years. And then he teams with his dad at WrestleMania 38. Ray praising Art Barr. Art Barr, who raped a girl, on July 16th, 1989. He's not the only wrestler to do that. That's not excusing it, but seriously? Art Barr may have been really goddamn talented in the fucking ring. Raped a fucking girl. So fuck Art Barr. He deserved to fucking meet a tragic end. Oh, but he might have beaten it in court. Yeah, well, you don't fucking take advantage of somebody like that. Anyway, Ray and Dominic team up. Like, the Mexican flag, the U.S. flag, that Hayabusa, whatever the fuck his name was. I've already fucking forgotten it because it wasn't that important, apparently. He designed the gear. And now, what's Ray's legacy? I think he's retiring at next year's WrestleMania. It's going to be in L.A., as it were. And also, let's be honest, Ray has gone as far as he can go. It's better to retire while you still have something left than to retire when you have nothing left and you're basically doing Ric Flair's last match. Ray will never get to that point. Ray could always make shots here and there, but he needs to be done in the ring. He needs to stop, not do this anymore. But Ray's legacy is seen as one of the best of all time, at least as far as luchadors go. And it'd be hard to argue with the amount of career success he's had. Doesn't compare to El Santo, Gory Guerrero, and others. Maybe not. But Ray is seen as a cultural icon. And you can't argue with success and longevity. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.